everyone, Jessica Paquette, joined with Silvestre Gonzalez. Take a ride with me segment. We're going to look at Try Harder, a terrific win from off of the pace. Now let's look at this horse coming right out of the gate. Things got interesting right out of the gate. Now, coming out of the gate, you're asking him a little bit here. You're in the green silks, and what are you thinking at this moment? What were your instructions?
Yeah, so this horse, I've ridden him a couple times. He can be a little bit slow coming out of the gate, and then he'll get into gear. So I just wanted it in this particular race. I know there was a lot of speed in the race, so I just didn't want him to fall too far back and then have to make up too much ground. Of course, with the 7 being the heavy favorite, we don't want to let him get too far ahead of us.
So let's pause it here and take a look. This is where you kind of relax on him a little bit more, and he's starting to pick up the pace a little bit. Now, is he one that kind of the more you relax, the more he gives you?
So, like I said, coming out of the gate, he's a little bit hesitant, and then by the time the mid-race hits, he starts to really kind of get into gear. So I don't really have to ask him, encourage him too much. I just kind of drop my hands and kind of let him get himself comfortable. By the 3/8, I felt like he was in a good spot, so I can kind of just let him cruise along.
Now, when you're pretty far off the pace like you are with him, are you aware of how fast they are or are not going on the front end?
Yeah, I can kind of tell what his pace is like, and I can dictate how fast they're going up in the front end as far as how much horse I got. So I can tell that they're kind of going at a pretty good clip. And, they're dueling. There's a couple horses out there that, they're really getting into it. So, I just try to sit a little bit patient, try to find my seam. And
this is where you're kind of looking like you might not have any room for a second there, but then he dives inside and you don't have to check at all. It winds up being a really smooth setup.
Right. Before the quarter pole, I don't know if you noticed, but I was able to bring down one goggle and I had a clear view, kind of see what's going on. I didn't really want to necessarily tip him straight to the outside and lose momentum. I just kind of tried to sit behind maybe where something was going to open up. And it just happened the way we thought it would, where, the 2 outside horses kind of leaned out a little bit and just kind of opened up a little bit for us. And he was making a nice move, so I just kept him comfortable.
And he just kept going. Now let's take a talk about the goggles. During a race, how much visibility do you have sometimes?
Well, honestly, in this race, I didn't have too much visibility from the 3/8 to the quarter pole, but I didn't want to drop down too much goggles. I just wanted to try to keep him relaxed. Once he felt that horse coming up around the quarter pole on the outside of him, he kind of took me along. So then once I let him come along to him, I was able to bring my goggle down. And of course, there's a couple wall of horses in front of me. So when I bring my goggle down, I got to try to make a quick assessment of where I'm going to go. So as soon as I bring my goggle down, I got to check and see if maybe I go outside, maybe I go inside, and just kind of go from there. But sometimes you bring down one, necessarily I use the windshield. I don't know if you ever see them, but I use that a lot, and that helps me save a lot of goggles. So I was able to use the windshield and then bring one goggle down, and then I was good.
And is the issue if you're reaching up to pull a goggle down that you're just losing a little bit of the driving momentum?
In a sense, but some horses, you don't really lose much. You got one hand on I use my right hand to bring the goggle down, so I got my right hand just in case. But you can kind of feel as a jockey, you'll feel when the time is right to bring your goggle down. Sometimes you're in a tight position and you can't really see, but you got to just maintain your position until you find a spot where you can bring it down.
Just when I thought race riding couldn't get any scarier, I hadn't even put in the idea that maybe there's sometimes when you guys can't see. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
I couldn't work out a trip like that with all of the eyes in the world. It was a beautiful trip, a beautiful ride. Try Harder and Silvestre Gonzalez.
Thank you.